Thank you all for joining us today for this important webinar. Now I request our past chairman, Mr. Ramesh Kamath, and also the panel chairman for the FIBC to give his welcome note. Over to Rohit sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Friends, a very warm welcome to everyone who is attending this meet today. A special welcome to our chairman, Sri Arvind Goenka, and Mr. Sagar Shah from the Ernst and Young LLP, and also to the senior members of the council who are with us today. Thank you very much for joining us. It is indeed a pleasure to have you all with us for today's webinar on the Production Linked Incentive PLI scheme for the technical textiles such as FIBCs, nets, ropes, twines, cordage, and others, which is being organized by the Plex Council. The scheme is expected to be announced by the Government of India shortly. Hello?
I think
can you hear me?
No, yeah, just now
So the objective of the PLI scheme is to become Atmanirbhar and to enhance India's manufacturing capabilities and exports for about 40 products of the MMF category and 10 in the technical textile category. The eligibility under the PLI scheme is based on criteria like investment, manufacturing capacity, and the turnover. The Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi stated that the 21st century will belong to India. The current situation is an indication that not only our nation needs to combat the crisis, but also resolutely move ahead and then prevail. Being self-reliant and vocal about local, Atmanirbhar Bharat aims to boost the economy, encourage domestic manufacturing, and Make in India will help in reviving the country's economic growth in the coming months and years. Intent, inclusion, infrastructure, and innovation are the 5 pillars that make up Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. Over the years, the plastic industry has leapfrogged to become a powerhouse in
Sir, we lost you sometimes. I think there must be it is a problem probably in the bandwidth problem. I think we had just lost him for some time. Just a minute. Just kindly bear with us. I think Mr. Kamath will join you shortly. Join us shortly. I think his problems. Let me see. I think just
found these to be helpful. We do invite you to keep sharing your views and perspectives. Sorry?
Sir, sir, I think we are not able to hear you for some time. If you kindly repeat what you just mentioned, you can please.
Okay. To support and promote the Indian plastics globally, Plex Council undertakes various initiatives which include organizing Indian Pavilion under the aegis of Ministry of Commerce and Industry at international exhibitions. The Council has been working on enhancing its digital presence. As always, we bring you news, opinions, and insights from the global plastic industry through our Plex Connect monthly digital magazine and Plex Council mobile application, and connecting with members through online webinars under Plex Connect 2021 webinar series, connecting you with the foreign buyers through virtual buyer-seller meet. We hope that all of you have found this to be helpful. We do invite you to keep sharing your views and perspectives with us, and together, let's build a greater industry for all of us. We are pleased to welcome our speaker of today's webinar, Mr. Sagar Shah, Partner, Tax and Regulatory, Ernst and Young LLP. Mr. Shah, we are glad that you have joined us today and agreed to address our participants on this important PLI scheme. We welcome all the participants to this webinar and request everyone to take maximum advantage of the subject expert. We are sure that today's webinar will be helpful to our industry members. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you so much. Now, I request our speaker, Mr. Sagar Shah, for his presentation. Mr. Shah, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Kamath, for the kind introduction and also setting up the tone for the entire session. I hope my presentation is visible without any disturbances, and I'm audible as well. If Mr. Kamath or someone can just.
Yes, it is fine. Yeah.
It's fine, yes.
Thank you. So quickly starting on this entire topic of PLI, and before I even get into the details of the scheme, I felt that since we are as an association and a plastics association that we are talking about, and the first question that comes to mind is that how are we into textile? I mean, what is it that is there for us from a textile perspective? Can we even be part of it? And is there something for the players within the industry that we are? Is there a possibility for us even to look at the benefits under the scheme? So I felt that even before we go to the PLI scheme and we talk of the proposed technical textiles inclusion in the scheme, which may be announced in the coming month, what I felt right is to say just quickly talk of technical textiles. What is it and why is the government having so much of a focus? I'm sure that you would have read about the National Technical Textile Mission of the Government of India, and this is something which is the government wants to focus more and more in the Indian industry so that more and more companies are able to get into manufacturing into this industry from a perspective where there should be a reduced dependence on imports and the country should be self-sufficient to supply and cater to the domestic industry and also look at how we can achieve more exports, and that's what the entire intention of the government is. Now, we see generally technical textile when we talk about, and it is anything where it is a industrial use, functional use, other than clothing and apparel. And there can be a huge amount of industries which we are talking about, where I think I'm getting some request to say my audio video is not clear. I think.
No, it is clear. No problem with that.
Clear. Okay, I'm seeing some messages. That's why I felt.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so basically you look at various industries like healthcare, sports, construction, agricultural, fisheries, aqua, infrastructure, automobiles, packaging. I think all these industries have a great value in terms of what we are talking of from a technical textile perspective. And it is a growth sector with a very, very high potential for value addition. Now, if you see some of the basis, some industry inputs, it is estimated that the domestic industry of technical textile in India stands at an estimated 19 billion in 1920 and is expected to reach 60 billion. So almost three times of what it is. And even after considering the COVID-19. So it's almost expected to be three times in the next 5 to 6 years that we're talking about. Now, if you see, when we say that what is technical textile and various research reports, various associations, even the Ministry of Textiles, what has now been done is to say that there are 12 broader categories based upon the end use that the technical textile products are being classified. And these are agrotech, buildtech, cloudtech, geotech, hometech, indutech, meditech, mobiletech, ocuotech, pactech, protech, and sporttech. We will talk of some of this. And why I felt that I need to start with this is that a lot of questions, and I've seen some of the questions which are being sent to me, are basis the first fact to say that do we even get covered? I mean, do our products even can be said to get covered into the technical textile definition which is there? If you see broadly, and this is the list, if you see agrotech, for instance, these are products which are utilized for agricultural, horticultural, forestry, fishery, etc. And various products like nets, crop covers, anti-hail nets, bird protection nets, fishing net, etc. fall into this. In build tech, again, this is for construction and architectural projects which are there, and some of the products which are listed in front of you, like floor wall covering, scaffolding nets, etc. Cloth tech is again something which is directly, indirectly related to the garment and footwear industry. And this includes all the shoelace interlining, zip fasteners, elastic fabrics, laces, tapes, so on and so forth. Then you talk of a very important uh, category, segment, which is on geotech, which is obviously in terms of the entire the waterworks, soil erosion, etc. And you see various products which are mentioned like geograde, geonets, woven and non-woven geotextile, and it's a extremely important focus area that we are talking about. And these are the various things which are important. Then you talk of home tech, which is fabricated for household furnishings such as carpets, curtains, and wall coverings. Then you talk of Indu tech for various products which are like filtration, conveyor belts, driving belts, etc. Then we talk of Meditech, again a very, very important sector, and especially in today's time when we look at hygiene and healthcare services, these are again extremely important as a category. Then we talk of mobile tech, which is more catering to the automotive sector, including airplanes and railways, which can be seat belts, airbags, your helmets, seat upholstery, nylon tire cords, so on and so forth. Then you talk of other Okiotech, where you talk of applications where erosion protection, air and water purification, basically everything relating to the environmental engineering which is there. The next that we'll talk of quickly is on the pack tech, and I believe lot of our products within the industry are going to come into this, where we say that those packaging products which are demanded in the household, agricultural, and the industrial sectors, and this can be all your woven sacks and jute sacks, flexible bulk containers, lino bags, luggage products, tea bags, non-woven shopping bags, many others. And then you look at Protect, which is fabricated for protective purpose in defense, and then Sport Tech, which is talking about the products in the sports enterprise, which talks of sports nets, artificial turfs, fabrics for parachutes, sports shoes, so on and so forth. Now, the entire intention to present before you, and let me tell you that I am not showing you something which is totally covered into the PLI scheme, but I wanted to lay a context to say that when you connect to these 12 segments that I presented, probably each one of you will now think of to say that the products that me as a manufacturer am manufacturing, does it fit into this broader category, either in the segment or some of the products that I have displayed or the description which is there. And if the answer is yes, it means yes, you have a good chance to say that probably your product can be included into the PLI scheme. Let me take you through something which is very interesting and important. And why are we saying that a technical textile is a very, very important focus for the India as a country? If you see the analysis which is there on the slide, which is our share in the global market, and if you see all the various categories which we just saw, I mean, the India share is so minuscule that you see those gray lines which are there as against the yellow line. The yellow line is the global market and the gray line is the India market. And if you see, unfortunately, our share in the global market is so small that it's just almost negligible. So it means that the government clearly understands this. They know that we in none of these products we are less. I mean, we are not more than 5% of our of the total global market, and hence it is important that we need to focus on this industry and see how we can have more manufacturing in India, how we can look at having more for the final products which are manufactured in India and are being import dependent, so that we'll have more to do in India itself. And that's the entire Atmanirbhar strategy that the government has to do more and more into this. Now, let me take you to the scheme, and I think at least I've set the tone to say that what are technical textiles, and probably this will interest you for most of you who believe that yes, we may and we have a probably even a side chance to say that our products may be covered into the sector. Now, let us come to the scheme and what is the scheme. So, as I start, let me tell you, this is a scheme like many other sectors. You will see uh, like food, pharma, telecom, electronics, many other sectors, the policies have already been covered, already been announced. A few of the due dates of the scheme already over, a few are getting into it, so on and so forth, right? So that's one thing which is there. Some schemes, like the thrust sector of textile, auto, they are in the rollout. Discussions are happening at the ministry level. And as we see the process, and I see some of the questions where when will this scheme be announced? So the scheme is expected to be announced soon, which means that probably in the next month, we are all expecting it will come through. Let me tell you that the original scheme, which was ready, it was put before the cabinet, and because of the various industry representations, the government, the Ministry of Textiles, thought of rethinking into this entire scheme, and that is why it is back on the table to be discussed. And I think in a very short time, it will be placed before the cabinet. Once it is approved, the operational guidelines will be rolled out, and that is where we are at this moment in time. Now we see the intent. The intent is clearly to create global champions. And please mark my word, this scheme is not for everyone. It is for companies who are really looking at doing something large. And typically, companies with turnover of more than 100 crores or wanting to invest more than 300 crores are those who are going to be eligible. Smaller companies, unfortunately, will not be eligible to even participate in this scheme. The scheme is clearly for man-made fibers, and that is about the nylon, viscose, polyesters, not cotton. And then we talk of technical textiles. So two different things, and I think the entire focus of my today's presentation is on the technical textile category. And clearly, in this segment, they are looking at creating 50, 60 world-class global champion companies, and not necessarily this has to be very, very large. Even companies with turnover of more than 100 crores can participate. The scheme, what is the scheme is going to be? This is going to be a turnover linked subsidy scheme. What it means is that, say your turnover for say 2021 is 100 crores, and then you are looking at say 21, 22, you invest say 30, 40 crores or 50 crores in terms of new expansions in the specified products. And 22, 23, your turnover is 150 crores. What it will, the scheme means is that the incremental turnover, which is 150 minus 100, in the financial year 20 to 23, you will get say 9% of that 50 crores. So 4.5 crores will be a subsidy, which bases all the parameters that you fulfill. You will get this credited into your bank account. This is the process which is there. And like this, you will be able to get the benefits for 5 years. So 5 years basis the CAGR, the compounded annual growth rate, and the increase that you are able to achieve, you will be able to get the subsidy which is there. And I'll talk of the percentage, etc. in some time. So in a nutshell, first thing is that your product has to be eligible. Second thing is that you should be eligible basis the turnover or the investment criteria. And the third thing is you should be able to achieve the growth which the government expects. If these three criteria are fulfilled, then you will be able to claim the subsidy, the incentive which is there. And that is what the scheme is. The scheme is from financial year 20 to 23 to 26, 27. 5 years. So this will be the year when you do the investment, plan, growth, everything, and your turnover from the next year will be considered. That's how the scheme will be. Now, currently, again, this is basis industry consultation and lot of discussion that we are having with the stakeholders, various companies which are there, various associations like our own association. What we are trying to do is to say that first understand what is the government intent and what are the eligibility criteria. If you see this slide, the intention is there should be a good, decent investment, large scale investment. There should be more of employment generation. The company should have domestic and global presence. The intention should be to boost exports. And again, on the other side, it is about reducing the import dependency of the product. You have to have more and more access to global markets, and there should be a commitment to growth. And this commitment to growth has to be continuous. These are the top level agenda that the government has. Now, what is the eligibility criteria? The first eligibility criteria is to say that you are, say, starting a new company for the eligible products. And I just showed you some of the products which are there in the technical textiles. And I know some of you are asking me what are the HSNs, etc. The HSNs are obviously not yet declared. The intent of the government is to say that probably they will declare 10 segments or products and products within those 10 segments. Like, say, for instance, they may say agrotech or geotech, and these are the kind of products and HSN that they will announce, and they'll say this will be eligible. So one is that you need to know what are those products eligible. There is a probability that you are not manufacturing currently those products, but basis the scheme and basis your planning that you're doing now, you want to invest into that particular product. Then this will be something which will be called as a greenfield project. So what it means is that you start an absolutely new project. where the minimum investment required is INR 300 crores. So if you decide and agree to invest 300 crores, then what will happen is you will be eligible to a very large incentive. And how the incentive will be worked, I'll tell you. So what happens is you invest 300 crores, you have 2 years to invest, which is say 21, 22 and 22, 23. These are 2 years which are your gestation period. In 23, 24, which will be your first year, you are expected to do double of the minimum turnover. And I know a lot of you will question this, but I'm just talking of what is being currently proposed, and then we'll talk of recommendations. So currently what is said is that, say, if you invest 300 crores, in 23, 2 years you will get to invest 21, 22 and 22, 23. In 23, 24, you should at least achieve a turnover of 600 crores. If you achieve 600 crores of turnover, then it will be, you will get a 15% benefit which is there. Okay, that's one of the large part which is there. Now, very rightly put to say that which companies are going to really invest 300 crores into technical textiles, such a large investment talking about, and will we even have 4 or 5 companies who are agreeing to invest so much? Unfortunately, the answer is, and this is a representation which is happening in the government to say that this 300 crores are too large. Right now, what the cap which is there, and let me tell you, originally this was 500 crores. Basis discussion, the government has now decided 300 crores. But even then, 300 crores is too large. Generally, our understanding with the industry, even the large players, is that if you decide 100 crores, it will still be reasonable. But right now, it is 300 crores. Now, it does not mean that we have to worry about, because if you're not fitting in Greenfield, there is still a category of brownfield, and I'll talk of that. But before that, let me tell you, in Greenfield, what happens is the incentive that you get on the incremental turnover, you get 15% of the incremental turnover in year one, then it becomes 14%, then it becomes 13, 12, and 11 in the 5th year. And that is how the incentive is. Now let us come to the brownfield project. And for everyone who feels that we cannot fit into Greenfield, we are not going to invest 300 crores, then your answer is the brownfield project. Here, there is no investment limit. And this is a very good thing to say, that there is no necessity that you need to invest 300 crores or 30 crores. Okay, there is no necessity. But your minimum turnover should be 100 crores, either in 1920 or in 2021. Okay, this is one of the things which is there. Now, interestingly, the question comes to say that how can this happen to say that the minimum turnover is only 100 crores, where in brownfield you are making us eligible and no investment limit. Now, we need to understand that you will never be eligible into this scheme if you do not invest. Okay, now how much is that investment? It is left to each one of you to decide. But indirectly, what the government has done is that the intent of the scheme is obviously commitment to growth. So what it means is that even if your turnover is 100 crores, the year-on-year growth which is expected is 40%. Okay, now I'll tell you how that 40% is worked, but let me give you an example for the first year, and I'll take an example as we go ahead. In the first year, you will have to grow by 40%. So 100 crores has to become 140 crores in the first year, which itself is a very steep expectation which is there. You will never be able to achieve that kind of a growth unless you have an excess capacity already built in, or you will have to invest more. So only when you do that, you will be able to achieve a 40% growth in year one. The year after that, you need to achieve 40% year on year on the incremental growth. So what it means is, in the first year, you did your turnover in 2021 was say 100. In 21, 22, it is to be 140. In 22, 23, it will be 40% of 40%, which is 16 crores. So 156 crores. So 100, 140, 156, so on and so forth. That's how it will be required to be done. And hence, if you see, if you are able to achieve that, and it is for the specified product, and this is a very interesting thing, let me tell you, it may happen that your total turnover is say 300 crores, but out of that you have say 10 different products that you are manufacturing, and there are only, say, when the scheme comes out, there are only 3 products which are eligible, the total turnover of which was only 30 crores in 300 crores. You are eligible because the total turnover of all products is 100 crores, but this product is only 30 crores. Now you decide to invest into these 3 lines, product lines, where you believe that there is an incentive and you actually want to expand. You believe that there is a great demand for that, and you invest into those product lines, and your turnover from 30 crores goes to 40 crores, which is a clearly increment which is there, and hence more and more you will be able to get the benefit of the scheme which is there. So when you calculate the eligibility, you will say 100 crores as the sector, as the entire textile turnover. But when you calculate the year-on-year growth, you'll have to calculate only for the specified products where you are eligible. And I will take you through an example on this. Give me a couple of minutes. Now, generally, what are those products? And I think that I can see some of the questions which are coming to say, what is the probable technical textile category? And I have just listed down some of the HSN. These are very broad. This was a list which was given when the scheme was in a discussion stage long time back. The top 10 HSNs which are there, where as India, we have too much of, the global, compared to the global trade which are there, we have very less share. In India, there is a huge consumption. We are dependent upon still upon imports, which is there. And then these were the top 10 HSNs which are being listed down, suggested by the government. Now, if you see this list, you will all note that these are more or less the finished products, the final products which are there. And the question that came is that if this is what is going to be covered, then probably lot of our players will not be able to take benefit. And unless and until we are also going to cover some of the intermediate products which are there for manufacturing the finished goods, this should be covered, then only it will be more and more interesting. Now, if you see category 3921, which are plates, sheets, films, foil and strip of plastics, I think some of you would be into manufacturing of these products, and there are chances that you may look at this, that this may be of benefit. Now, other than this 10, and let me tell you that this was, as I said, was the original scheme which were being covered, the original products. Now, what is happening and what the government is doing is that basis various representations, they are going to have this list expanded. Now, what I'm meaning thereby is that instead of just defining 10 products, they are going to probably now define 10 segments. Uh, 10 segments which are there in the technical textile category and the products within that. Thereby, what will happen is that the scheme will be far more broader, and it will enable a lot of our players to be covered into this particular scheme which is there. So I think it will be interesting to wait for this. At the same time, our recommendation is that if you believe that your product has that importance in terms of global trade, import dependence, less exports, lot of still, you have a competition with Chinese products, to say Chinese products are becoming cheaper as compared to we manufacture in India. Can we build up a representation and go to the government to say that if we are able to prove and be able to talk of the importance of this particular product, there's a good chance that we'll be able to get into this. Another point which comes, and I'm seeing some questions as I answer, is to say, will this scheme, is there any specific thing for MSME? Let me tell you, there is nothing, unfortunately, because the intention of all the PLI scheme, and let me tell you, it is not only textile. The general intent is to say that you look at the larger companies who are more than, and in this scheme, it is more than 100 crores. Some of the other scheme, it was way beyond this. To say that if these particular companies invest and grow, the ecosystem around that gets developed. So that is the entire intention of the scheme which is there. And I know, unfortunately, small companies, MSMEs will not be able to cover, will not be covered into the scheme. Just a comparison between Greenfield and Brownfield, I think I've spoken of it. But if you see, in Greenfield, 300 crores, 2 years of gestation period, and in the year one, you need to achieve a minimum turnover of double of the investment that we have done. And then every year you need to get 25%, which is there. That's one thing which is there on the Greenfield. And the rate of incentive will be 15% to 11% on the incremental sales only. And then there's a brownfield category where any manufacturing company having more than 100 crores. Now, this is interesting, any year, 1920 or 2021. Because of COVID, there might be a possibility that probably 2021, the numbers can be really small, 1920 can be better. And hence the little bit of flexibility, and it can be vice versa also, because of the sector. You can take anything as a base. Then the next thing that happens is that the gestation period, which is there, it will be 1 year, 21, 22, which is there. And then we are talking of the minimum incremental sale should be 40% on the first year. Now, what is the first year? So what will happen is, say 21, 22 is your gestation period. So you start from 20 to 23. As I was giving the example, say your 1920 turnover is 100 crores, 2021 is 120 crores. So your higher of the turnover, so 120 will be considered. Then for 20 to 23, say your turnover is 160 crores. So 160 minus 120, so it's still not 40%. You'll have to get more than that. And that's how the calculation will be done. You will not be allowed to select the year where your turnover, base year turnover is less, but your turnover, which year is more, will be considered. And then the incentive, it will be 9% in year 1, then 8, then 7, then 6 and 5. That is how it will be there on each of the year. Another important few conditions, only manufacturing company registered in India will be eligible. So thereby indirectly, they do not want MNCs who are looking at, if they want to come in India, they can come, but they'll have to register in India and do it. Your sales as per your GST invoice will be important, which is sold in India. No stock transfer, no job working will be allowed, no trading turnover will be allowed. So again, the intent is to allow the benefit to manufacturing turnover only. So this is very, very important. And then goods manufactured by unit other than the registered one, even of the same group company, shall not be accounted for calculation. So in many times in the industry, it may happen that we have group companies which are there. So we'll have to even look at this very specifically so that the company which is registered, only its turnover will be considered. Now let me take this example, and I think a lot of people have these questions to say, how do you calculate this 100%, 40%, etc. So what I've done is that to bring clarity to everyone, I've just given this example so everyone understands what is the expectation. Say in the base year, and base year, as I said, can be 2021 or 1920. Say, presume your turnover of 100 crores. What will be expected is 21-22 is the year, current year, where you invest, where you put in your plants, your expansion, or the product where you're not covered. You are now going to focus on that from a sales perspective. You do what is required. And then what happens is, say 21-20, 120 crores. Nobody is going to worry about your turnover for 21-22. In 22-23, however, you will have to achieve a 140 crores of turnover. Now, how 140 is calculated? You have take 100 as a base and then 40% of 100 crores. So your incremental turnover will be 40 crores. So you have achieved the milestone of 40%. You get 9% of 40 crores, which is a 3.6 crores of an incentive is what you get. Now let me go to the next year, 23-24, what happens? So again, I don't have to look at a 40% on 140. I have to calculate 140 plus 40% of the incremental turnover, which is 40 crores. Okay, last year I did 40 more. So that is 16 crores more. So my now incremental turnover will be 56 crores for this year. How am I calculating this? I'm not doing 156 minus 140. I'm doing 156 minus base year of 100. Hence, this is 56. On 56 crores, I get 8%, which is another 4.5 crores. Then the third year again, I do 156 plus 40% of the incremental subsidy, and it comes to 78 crores, the incremental turnover. 7% of that becomes 5.5 crores. And then you calculate it for the next 2 years. Now, if you see your total proposed incentive, which is there for a company with a turnover of 100 crores, your 100 crores turnover, which is in, say, in 2021, the expectation is by 26-27, you should become 254 crores. So you should become 2.5 times your size in about 6 years. And that is what the government is expecting to say, that if you have that growth commitment to say you can become 2.5%, 2.5 times of your existing size, then our intention is to give you that incentive, because we know that you will invest. And for subsidizing that investment, we will give you this investment. If you do not invest, if you do not grow, you do not have the commitment to grow, then the incentive will not come in. That's how the scheme is framed. So that's a very interesting parameter that we are talking about in terms of the entire scheme which is there. If you see, even if a small company with a turnover of 100 crores going to 250 crores, if you see the incentive of 5 years, and just into this example that we are talking about, we're still getting a more than 25 crores of incentive which is there. Which means that this is an interesting scheme to say that if it means that if I am 100 crores of turnover and I want to invest, I know over a period of time I'll be getting 25 to 30 crores. Let me invest. This will also help you to go to bankers if you are, so you apply, you get eligibility, you go to your bankers, and this will all be possible, because it will be easier for you to say that if you're going to achieve this number, this is what your, in your projections, you're going to further get as a subsidy from the government. And this is going to be something that will really help you get the benefit of the scheme which is there. I think I know there'll be a lot of questions, and I'm going to take questions, and that is why I felt that I need to move with my presentation faster rather than going into too much of technical details. But let me tell you, as I said, the scheme, the government intention is very clear. They don't want to give it to everyone. They want to give it to limited players. But the thing here, which is very interesting, is to say that if you are able to get this benefit, if you are able to grow, and if you are able to really invest into the products, you will be able to get far more benefit which is there. And I think it's a good scheme. All the PLI scheme that we have seen, the food PLI just got over yesterday, and we have seen a very good response in terms of the food industry. And I'm sure the textile also will have a good uh, feedback from the industry in terms of number of applications. But clearly, does it suit everyone? I mean, the question that comes is that when you look at and this is one thing what we are also asking questions, and probably to all of you here to say that is it reasonable to say a 40% growth even on the incremental turnover? Is it feasible from 100 to 250 crores? Is it a feasible turnover that we are talking about? And this is something that we need to think through. And if you see some of the other sectors like pharma, food, here the incremental growth, the CAGR, the compounded annual growth rate which is expected was say 8% or 10%. As compared to that, I think in the textile sector, the expected CAGR at 20% for brownfield is very high. And I think this is something which, even if you are eligible, even if you believe that your product is eligible, because you are not achieving the 20% year-on-year growth, this is not going to you may not end up getting the real incentive which is there. And this is something which is disheartening, I would say, to an extent. I know for sure that a lot of companies, a lot of industries, associations are still talking to government to get this incremental growth criteria relaxed so that it will be really something better. The way I spoke of brownfield, the same thing, if you see for greenfield, and this is something what I was talking about in this slide. If you see here, you're talking of a 300 crore investment. In the first year, you will have to get 600 crores as a turnover. After that, you need to get only 25% of the additional turnover which is there. If you see in Greenfield, over a period of 5 years, your compounded annual growth rate is only 8%. First year, yes, you have to do double, but after that, your growth which is required is capped to an extent. And hence, in Greenfield, if you see typically uh, your CAGR is expected still at a lesser rate as compared to a brownfield. And I think rightly so to an extent to say, because the first year, the expectation of doubling uh, creating a turnover which is more than double the investment is really very large. I know on my discussions with various industry players that in the textile sector, expecting a 1 is to 2 or 1 is to 3 types of a turnover on the investment is not easy. So this is something which is not going to be very easy. But yes, uh, currently this is what the government is expecting, and I think the government has done its own analysis and research, and it believes there will be players who will be able to get the benefit into this particular uh, even in the greenfield sector which is there. I think those were the quick comments from my side. As I'm speaking, I'm seeing number of questions, and rather than for me just to make it a one way traffic about the scheme, I would rather be happy to take questions. Maybe Naman, you want to take it over from me, and we want to discuss questions, discuss more about the scheme. I've kept the focus only on the technical textiles and categories and the top three things, but I'm more than happy to take questions beyond what we are doing right now. Over to you, Naman.
Okay, yeah, we have so many questions as of now and comments as well.
Yeah.
So basically, just we have a question from Mr. Agarwal that how has the government got a figure of 300 crore? It is not related to reality. On the contrary, brownfield threshold is also too low. So your comments on that?
So I think let me distinguish. 300 crores is the investment criteria. It is not turnover criteria. That's point one. And for brownfield, 100 crores the turnover criteria. It is not investment criteria. So two different criteria. Now, 300 crores, if you see, the intention is, and it is across man-made fibers and so man-made fabrics and technical textile. It is in totality. So if you see 300 crores from the entire textile market that we are talking about, both TT and MMF, then I think there will be companies who will be in that range. Not to say it won't be there, but yes, I take the point to say there will be very, very few who will be investing 300 crores. That's too huge an investment. And that is a recommendation which has gone, and I think even Plex Council should represent again to say that if this investment limit is brought down to, and the intention has to be to say it should be large level investment, it can't be small, and we all understand, but this is something which has to be done so that it makes really worthwhile for more players to try and get the benefit. I take that point. When it comes to 100 crores for brownfield, I think it's a reasonable number because it is a turnover number. Now what happens is that when you apply for the scheme, you have to apply for the products which are eligible. And the intention again is to say if you are a company with a turnover more than 100 crores in manufacturing, it means that you have a decent size who have the capability and growth commitment. And that's, I think, which has been to an extent similar, which we are seeing. In fact, in the food industry, food sector, the turnover limits laid down were 500 crores and 250 crores respectively for two segments which were there. So I think in pharma, they are far more for that matter. So if you see that comparison, I think in textile, 100 crores will be a reasonable number, at least in the view of the general industry which is there. Yes.
Okay. Yes. We have a question from Mr. Harsh. He's asking, apart from this incentive, can anyone avail other subsidy also like TOPS or state government subsidy, or a PLI is additional benefit, or it restricts other incentives?
Yes, it's a good question, Naman. And let me tell you, this PLI is a very different standalone scheme, and this will be over and above your other schemes which are there. In fact, not only the things like that you mentioned, like TAFs and some of the other things, you may also have state incentives for new manufacturing. In fact, some of the states have special textile policies for that state, like Maharashtra or Gujarat, and you have benefits under that, and that may still be taken and continue. That's how it is.
Okay. Uh, we have a question from Mr. Suresh. Just hold on. He's asking, does this include weaving of glass fiber as well as stitching of glass fiber? And major applications are wine blades, defense articles, printed circuit boards, marine boards, and carbon fabric weaving and fabric production.
So let me tell you, basically the product, as I just said, the product list is not yet out. The government intent is to declare top 10 technical textile segments. What we have been doing, we are also representing on behalf of many of our clients and associations where we are saying we'll see your specific product. We will do our research in terms of the global commitment, growth, the global share, and if it fits into the overall government's intent, we will want to then go and represent to the government that this product should be included. Some of the product like glass fiber, for instance, will it get covered? Our view is yes, basis the HSN, obviously we will see, but yes, these are important products which are there. We'll have to see it. But will you purely as a job worker be able to get the benefit? The answer is no. That's something that we'll have to keep in mind.
Okay. Mr. Jignesh is asking, is this scheme document available anywhere? If you can suggest a link or reference where everyone can refer.
Honestly, no, because this scheme is in discussion. What happens is it gets discussed with the top industry players, some of the associations which are there. It goes for recommendations, and then it comes out. That is what it is.
Okay. Yeah. Mr. Basant has one more question. What if anyone in 1 year we don't achieve desired turnover, the entire incentive will come or not?
So I think it's a good question. Again, our experience basis the other PLI policies that the government clarifies that there might be a chance that in a particular year you may not have achieved. So that year you won't get the benefit, but in the next year if you achieve, you will be able to get that benefit. That is how the scheme have normally worked in all the sectors, pharma, food. So again, see if I have to just give you this perspective, why am I referring to other policies? All the PLI schemes are something. If you remember, our finance minister on the budget day on 1st of Feb, she made an announcement to outlay this 1,08,000 crores for the 10 thrust sectors, and textile being one of them with 10,600 crores. It is one part of that. So the larger intent will be in line. And hence, looking at that intent, we believe that this is how it will work.
Okay. Mr. Jitesh is asking, what happens if you grow for more than 40 crores in 1 year and less than 40 in second year, keeping the overall at the end of second years be 56 plus. So is the company still eligible in that case?
So I think again, unfortunately, if you see how they have made the formula, they have said that, and I take the question to say in the first year you had 100, second year you do 60 crores instead of 40. And third year, so your incremental turnover is 60 crores. So the scheme says in the third year, you need to do 40% of 60 crores, which is the incremental turnover. So you have to do 184 in the third year. Now I take your point to say that if I had done only 40 crores, I would have reached only 154. But in spite of reaching 184, you will not give me the benefit. Now this is the reason why one of the recommendation we have done is that okay, you can have the parameters of 40% growth, but if you are able to lay down to say that if you have grown, the compounded annual growth rate is say 20%, you should still give the benefit. And this is also one of the recommendation which has been given. But as of now, the way the wordings look at, it seems that if you do not achieve 40% of 60 crores, you may not get the benefit. This seems to be the first reading. And again, let me tell you, these are right now, whatever we are discussing is basically the discussion which are happening and which is there. So not something which is cast in stone, but again, this is clearly our experience based upon the other schemes.
Okay. Yeah. Mr. Ashwin is asking. He's, I think, supplier to MMF. So please confirm whether supplies to MMF can be covered under PLI. Say, if we are supplying various products to different sectors, how can we differentiate that these products are supplies to MMF industry?
So there is no need to distinguish. Okay, let me tell you. And if you are a supplier to MMF, what happens is in the MMF, it may be a yarn, it may be a fabric, or it may be the apparel. Okay, generally I'm talking about. The yarns are clearly not going to get covered. There is no intent of the government to be at the first level covering the yarns. But if it is a fabric, or say they are linings which you are being supplying to any specific industry which is there in the MMF apparel industry that is there, it might get covered. So again, this will be based upon the product and the HSN, and I'm more than happy to help if you are specifically able to give those details.
Okay. We have a question from Arvind sir. Will we have to make an application to avail the scheme? What happens when some manufacturer has made investment in this year before the scheme is announced? Will it be considered as eligible investment?
So if it is in the current year, the answer is yes. If it is 2021, for the other policies, they did allow to say if you've invested in plant machinery, we will allow you, because the scheme, if you see the intent was laid down somewhere in February that the government wanted to. In all the other schemes, they have allowed eligibility of plant machinery investment done even in 2021. So most probably they will allow for this also, but we'll come to know when the operational guidelines are out.
Okay. We have a question from Mr. Ravi Khemka. Whether master batch manufacturer, supplier to fiber yarn manufacturer for dyeing, or supplier to non-woven manufacturer, are they covered under this scheme?
So Naman, again, these are very specific product questions which are there, and as I said earlier, specific
Okay.
product questions will have to be taken
Okay.
separately, because I need to understand the product, the HSN, where it fits, and only, and again, there's a discussion going on. If you,
Okay.
and again, my request to all of you, and it is very important, your questions are very right, and I'm with you for all these things. If you believe that your product is of that importance in the global market, and you believe that there is going to be a growth in your product and sector, and you believe that you will invest into that and you can achieve all the other milestones, please come back to us. We will surely help you in the next steps. That's my thought, Naman, because it's all this question in relation to products, and we can keep it on the
Right.
side and we can do it separately. Yeah.
Just one more clarity. One participant is asking, is it available to 100% EOU units?
Oh, yes. In fact, if you are into exports, I mean, the focus of the country is global share, right? So if you're doing exports, you get more brownie points. More than happy to consider all the EOUs.
Okay. And is there any criteria for investment, considering of investment like domestic or imported capital goods? Is there any criteria for considering
No.
turnover?
No, Naman. You can invest anywhere. I mean, you can import plant machinery, which is imported, or domestic, whatever. In fact, let me tell you, if you're importing plant and machinery, you obviously have other benefits like EPCG, or you have the bonded warehouse scheme, and you can take benefits of the custom duty saving and all. But again, as I said, this will be over and above the other schemes which are there.
Okay. So is there any questions with the participants? They can post in the chat box. We can take it up quickly. Yeah, Arvind sir has asked, what happens if we don't achieve 40 crore incremental in first year, but achieve 157, 56 crore turnover in second year? Will incentive be paid? And if yes, it will be paid on 56 crore or on 16 crore?
Right. So again, it's a good question. We believe, and again, basis our experience in the pharma, when similar questions were posed, to say what happens is finally we are saying in year 3 you have achieved that growth, right? So in the first year you achieved only 16, but because your investments etc. were a little delayed, and then in the third year, in the second year you achieved that additional 50 crore. So finally in year 1 you won't get, but year 2 you should get. That is how the scheme will have to be read. And I think we should be able to see that through, because that is the intention. Because it will always happen that it's never going to happen that you invest in the current year and you start selling from the next year and you get your turnover. It might be possible that some investment gets spilled over to the next year, your benefit in terms of sale etc picks up the next year, and you may get that increase in sale in the next year. So I think that will be possible. uh, and these are important questions, so let me give you one more very good feedback. See, our experience with all the governments, and this will be when we look at the Ministry of Textiles who is being owning this policy. When the policy comes and we have specific questions, we have seen that we go back to the government even after the policy is rolled out, and there are clarifications which the government is giving, like the Food Ministry has given, like the Department of Pharma has given, and so will the MOT give, to say that we will go to them to ask specific questions to say, look, there is a chance that, and a very good question. I totally appreciate this may happen to say 100 become 116 and then 154. Then please allow me in year 2 one full 54, and that is what we should ask for, and I think we should be able to get that.
Okay, so we have again questions related to HSN code. So we should wait for the operational guidelines to come out. In that case, is the deem export already included in this?
So it does not matter, because see, you have to manufacture. It should be a turnover of manufactured goods sold in India or outside India. That is what the entire intention is. If you are able to fit into that, I think you can take care of that.
Okay. Can the company have multiple products, like 2, 3 technical products, technical textile products, and can they be clubbed to avail this scheme?
Yes. So what we can do is, and I think it's again an important question to say, what happens is that there might be 3 different HSNs under which we are manufacturing, and these 3 different products become eligible. So what you need to do is that you will see the turnover of these products together. Say it is 30, 30 and 40. So it becomes 100, and you see your incremental growth. So then we need not go product wise. We can go on the category, on the all the products which are there in its totality. So that's the kind of thing detailing that we can look at.
Okay. We have a question from Mr. Bhagirath. He's asking who will be the competent authority to apply for this scheme, or maybe who is a nodal monitoring agency. One more question is from Mr. Nitin. So how can we address this question? Yeah.
So I think it's the question is right, because what happens is today the scheme which is being done is entirely being done by the Ministry of Textiles. Niti Aayog is obviously told to oversee, give the detailed guidelines, ensure that it is in line with the government intent, to support all the ministries, whether it is food or textile or pharma. This is what it is being done. Then there will be a project implementation agency, and this is a PMA which we appointed, which typically can be IFCI, SIDB, or any such independent authority to whom you will, and there will be an online application which is there. Such a nodal agency, the implementing agency, the PMA would analyze your application. It will basis the, and there are various criteria which are fixed in, to say that there will be a rating system, to say there are, say, 200 companies apply for this particular scheme. So what happens is that they will lay down criteria to say that, see, you have 33% marks for investment, 33% for the product capability, 33% for, say, exports or your overall growth commitment, and they will create a matrix which is given in the operational guidelines. Now, what the PMA will do is it will review your application and say, okay, we have seen 200 applications. Out of 200, we believe 50 are not eligible at all, and 150 are eligible. And then they'll create a ranking basis the budget that they have. They have a budget of some 10,000 odd crores, 10,000 crores, 10,600 crores, and they'll say, okay, if we go by the numbers which have been given by the various players, out of 150, we believe only 50 or 80 companies can get the benefit, and hence we have given a ranking sort of a thing to these particular companies who can be selected in the first thing. That is how it will happen.
Okay. So again, one question related to eligible and non-eligible products. So I think that is already addressed. And Mr. Nitin is asking, what would be the revenue calculation formula? Is import input adjustment will be required?
No, there is no adjustment required for any inputs, etc. You are going to look at your incremental sales only. That's how we look at your formula.
Okay, yeah, and most important question that we all are eager to hear: when will the scheme will be launched, and when is it is expected to be rolled out?
So I think it's $1 million question. All of us are waiting for that. We waited with, but let me tell you, it should happen in the next month. I mean, it is delayed. It should have come probably last month or this month for sure. But because the cabinet had sent the note back with a note to say that please reconsider industry representations on various expectations, the earlier scheme had only 40 MMF and 10 products, which I showed you, and the scheme would have not helped even. I mean, it would have helped only a very, very small, minuscule part of the industry. It would not have been very successful. And the government, I think, in the right turn, has thought about it. I think it's just a question of time. We believe maybe in the next 2 or 3 weeks, the scheme should be out, is what we are hearing. We will probably hear the cabinet clearing. So, what happens is first the cabinet has to clear the scheme, and then the operational guidelines follow, and then they give a date to say this will be a starting date and the end date to apply. That's what will happen. But I think next month we should hear about it.
Okay, so participant is also curious to know: is there any single site when they can follow all updates related to PLI scheme or new notifications?
So unfortunately, there is no such single site or anything which is available, because all the PLI schemes, if you see all these discussions which are happening, they happen with the industry players. This is a policy. It's not like a law where the government sits and creates a law. It is always a process where the industry players are involved. As I said, that how do we also talk about and how do we know some of these things? We are very closely connected with the industry players. We talk to them, various associations which are there, we talk to them. The government takes their recommendations. We go to them with our recommendations that this is what the intent is, and that is how it helps. So I think if there are any questions, and I think as Plex Council, which is doing wonderful job, and I heard in the beginning chairman talking about the various things that we do, it will be good for the association also to take back some of the questions, some critical things. And I think the government also wants to hear from the industry, and that's a very, very great positive sign about what we are talking about. And why I'm telling you this is that if, in all honesty, if we go to them to say, look, these are the products where a lot of players are there, looking at commitment to invest and a critical product to the industry, this is somewhere, and we are able to make a case. And we as EY, we do a lot of research on this, where really we believe we can tell you this is a product that no, you should not represent or you should represent, and we can then look at assistance in that. So if you believe that there is a chance for you to look at those things, your large products, your large investments, some of the large players who are there, or products which you want to invest into, I think this is a great time to focus on this. That's what I would like to put as my closing comments on uh, this particular point.
Great, Sagarji. As there are no more questions, I request Mr. Sribas Das Mahapatra, Executive Director, Plex Council, to give a formal vote of thanks.
Good afternoon once again. Our sincere thanks to Mr. Sagar Shah, Partner Tax and Regulatory, Ernst & Young LLP, for giving an excellent coverage on production links incentive scheme and sharing his insights on background of technical textiles, eligibility criteria, incentive offered, and learning from the PLI scheme for other products as well. We're also thankful to Mr. Ravish Kamath, past chairman, Plex Council, CEO Big Bag International, also our panel chairman for FIBC, for being with us today for this important webinar. We also thank all participants for joining us. Our thanks also due to our chairman, vice chairman, committee of administration members, and office bearers of various associations from across India for being with us today and spreading the awareness about this webinar to their members. We also hope you all found this session insightful and fruitful. For your information, Council is in the process of organizing buyer-sellers meet in some of the European countries, and also Arab Plast exhibition in coming months. We used to inform the Plex Council is organizing one webinar on common investing mistakes made by exporters on next Friday on 2nd July, and second webinar on ECGC scheme and services on 9th July 2021. Members will receive circular about this shortly. Non-members can subscribe to social media channels of Plex Council or download Plex Council mobile app to receive updates on regular basis. To know more about upcoming programs, please visit Council's website www.plexcouncil.org. Kindly send your comments and feedback about this webinar, or let us know the topics of your interest for our future webinars as well. Thank you for giving your valuable time and attending the webinar. Stay healthy, stay safe. Thank you all once again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Now, I think we should call it a day. I think we should close this seminar with the permission, Chairman. Ravi sir. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Yes,
much.
thank you so much. Thank you so much,
Let's
Edie sir and
conference
Mr. Shah.
close. Yeah. Thank you.